y'all Meek Mills, y'all Puffies, y'all Lil Boozies, none of these names, none of these people that have to listen to y'all because they have legal. I never killed nobody, right? I'm the pussy that never killed nobody, right? But that means I can say whatever I want and not go to jail. And even if they did figure out a way, I'm still not backing down from what I said. You know, out in Hollywood, a lot of people come up missing. Feels like it might be a lot of that in order to control, traumatize. They want to monetize and traumatize. And God loved me.
Tupac told me back in the days, you know, you had to get your money right and then you go to war.
The grand jury also heard testimony about the East Coast-West Coast feud between rappers, specifically between Suge Knight's Death Row Records and Sean Puffy Combs' Bad Boy Records. There was a connection between Keefe D's Southside Compton Crips and Bad Boy Records. A witness testified that Keefe D and his nephew Orlando Anderson were in charge of the relationship between the Southside Compton Crips and Bad Boy Records, and that Bad Boy Records feared Suge Knight. Death Row was associated with the Bloods. Another Bad Boy Records connection, a witness testified that Eric Zip Martin gave Keefe D the gun the night that Tupac was shot. Zip knew Sean Puffy Combs. Suge Knight's former head of security, Reggie Wright, testified that Suge Knight and Sean Puffy Combs were once on good terms, but things changed in 1995. Wright said Suge Knight believed that Combs was responsible for the death of one of his friends.
We all chilling.
Right.
We on the West Coast. Tupac brought Biggie with him. We rocking. We let Cub get down with us. We go in the back, smoke, chill, hang out. It's beautiful.
When did it go sideways?
Once Pac got shot. When he got shot, he felt like they did it, but...
And this was when he got shot in New York.
Yeah.
Before he got shot in Vegas.
There you go right there.
Yeah.
And now...
So he felt like someone from the West Coast was involved.
No.
Or from the
like,
East Coast, rather. Excuse me.
Yes. And later information came out that the people that he thought did it had nothing to do with it.
So by him accusing people of it, it kind of set things off.
And then by him being bailed out by Death Row Records, and Death Row Records adding more gasoline to the fire, and him being a part of the most gangsterous label in the world that his opposition didn't want no issues with.
Right.
It only egged it on as opposed to, let's find a resolution. No, let's keep making it more of a problem.
Right.
The same way with the Who Shot Your record. They said that Biggie didn't do that to diss Pac. But Puffy knew that let's put it out anyway to stir up some controversy and maybe it's going to sell records. So these things was bad timing. You know what I mean?
Niggas shot me 5 times. I came out of jail and sold 5 million. Them niggas can't fuck with us. That fat fuck only sold 2 million. Fat motherfucking Biggie came in the gang and Biggie, you see that nigga quiet as a fucking church mouse. Dropped, hit him out, that nigga quiet as fuck. He ain't got shit to say. I fucked this bitch and sold 5 million. That's Death Row style. West side.
I say a week before he died, we was best of friends. 2 days before he died, I don't think he liked me because we was in New York and went and did an interview and was asked, how do I feel about Puffy and Biggie? And I was like, I like them. I want to do some music with them. And that just rubbed Cuz the wrong way. Like, fuck them. Them tried to kill me, shot at you, and you tell me you want to do a song with him. I wasn't thinking about his emotion. I was thinking about the way I felt at the time. I wasn't into no controversy. I liked them music. They was our friends. We was all friends at one point. This video footage of all of us hanging out. Pac, Biggie, Puff, Suge, all of us together. Prior to Death Row, I never seen myself getting involved. Even when he played the video for me to Hit 'Em Up. Even when he played Hit 'Em Up the song, I didn't like the song.
Did you feel like it was
I didn't
too
like
much?
it. I didn't like it. Like, it wasn't like the shit to me. Like, it was buying more problems, cuz. Gangsters is everywhere. They make them everywhere. And I think when he got with us, he got to the mind state that we the mother. And ain't nobody like us. Always people like us everywhere.
The Tupac article had me pissed off, you know what I'm saying? And the rumors that's spreading is on some tip like you set him up. You know what I'm saying? And that's crazy.
He ain't like that. Snoop Dogg ain't like that shit because guess what? Snoop Dogg, not trying to say Tupac ain't from that, but Snoop Dogg really from that. That gangbanging culture. He really from LA. He really from out there. So, you know, people that really live in that life, man, they ain't trying to deal with that shit, man. They be trying to, you know, they ain't trying to people that really live that life like that, they trying to escape it. They ain't, you know, like it's so crazy because people that's really out there, they trying to escape it, and people that ain't grew up like that, they going towards it. It's just the wrong thing to ever do. But yeah, just had to say that.
It's just ridiculous, you know what I'm saying? But I also understand that if you was to get shot 5 times, mind is just completely spinning, you know what I'm saying? You're real confused about your situation. So it'll cause you to say things that you really don't mean.
Can you envision a day when, y'all, if not get together and make an album, just peacefully coexist?
There's no dream of making an album with Biggie and Puffy, or none of them. We're not sweating it like that.
This is our
we
family.
We peacefully coexist right now because we all cool. Everybody's here. They sell records. We sell records. Well, I guess you could call that selling records. What they do. We sell large amounts of records, and they sell a few records.
It is claimed that Puff Daddy gave Crips gang member Keefe D $1 million to kill Tupac and Suge Knight, who was recently arrested.
The day you put out a hits, the day Diddy admits that he put the hit out that got Pac killed.
And these are Eminem's lines from the Kill Shot track. Joe Budden recounted how Puffy reacted to it.
Puff said it's in his hands, and he said, I can say it. And that's the end of that.
Have fun with that one.
He said, there's nothing to say about it. It's in my hands.
Even Suge Knight gets angry at people who think that he killed Tupac. But
Bitch ass Puffy can give him a mother star, and every rat in the world said he didn't want to kill Tupac. Yeah. Or had him shot.
And now, after the arrest of Keefe D, who said that Puff Daddy offered him $1 million to murder Tupac, many raised the question, will Puff Daddy face charges?
I told you can't trust him. Puffy done killed Tupac, man.
In this way, 50 Cent is making fun of Puff Daddy. And
He did reply, read what people say. Everybody that was there knows what happened.
The story was I was shooting a video, the second half of Warning, which is on the B side of Big Papa. And I was shooting that around the block. And I heard my man was up in the studio doing a Junior Mafia session, elevator, and he comes out shot. Me and my man, we try to sit him down. He called his mom. He asked my man if he could roll him a blunt. You know what I'm saying? We asked him if he's all right. He's just like, yeah, I'm all right. I don't know what's going on. And we just there trying to comfort him. Andre Harrell went and made sure was calling the ambulance. It was nothing but love and concern.
The Tupac article had me pissed off, you know what I'm saying? He dissed my man. And you're real confused about you.
On the real, it seemed like somebody killed Tupac over being scared and money. Like they was gonna gain some type of power or money off of it, like, you know.
Your situation. So it'll cause you to say things that you really don't mean.
They got different accounts of what happened, and I'm the one with the bullet wounds. I was there for the whole thing. No one else.
Only God knows the truth.
Let me show you how we do stuff around here. Actually, my department uses Monday.com, so I'm good. Work management tool? No, that's not for me. Well, Monday.com is all about flexibility.
And aside from all these, Diddy's also believed to have murdered several artists in the industry who probably would have been alive and thriving today had he not gotten in their way. The claims that Diddy was behind the death of Tupac and Biggie are still strong even today, as many people believe without a doubt that he had a hand in their murders.
Puffy, right? His baby mom, Kim Porter, right? She got a whole lot of Tupac-related posts on her IG. She's right next to Puffy, and she's wearing the Tupac shirt. Did Tupac and Kim Porter know each other?
Bruh, all the people in the industry know at one time, Pac and Puff was like this. They was cool enough where they became enemies. Do you understand that? Where Pac didn't trust him no more, and where Puff idolized some of the things that he was doing. And you got to remember, they was all swingers. Something happened between them two, and I don't know what it was, and I don't know what it is that caused.
See, and a lot of people don't even know this. A lot of people don't even know this. That's why I put this in the video too. They don't even know that how cool they used to be. But it is starting to see what's starting to make sense to me. I see why it was, on the real. Well, I get rid of it. I get rid of him. That's a problem. That's a problem. Kind of get going away, but at the same time, yeah, they knew they was going. He knew he was gonna get that bag, but at the same time, double the bag because and he had insurance on Biggie too. That's a bag.
A friction between their relationship. Maybe Kim liked Pac more than she liked Puff, but she couldn't have Pac.
But it's starting to make sense because I don't think he wanted to. I don't know.
This app on my phone called Audible helps pay for my bills every month. I'm sure you've heard of Audible, but what you might not know is that it's owned by Amazon.
They feel like Biggie started the beef, then Biggie had to.
Like minting money? Well, the lithium business is for you. The lithium margins right now are practically software margins. We're seeing cases where the spot lithium price is 10 times higher than the cost of extraction.
It's one fantastic ride. The turbocharged, tech-inspired Kia Forte.
Best 2 out of 3?
Lease the new 2024 Forte LXS for $189 a month.
Biggie was.
Allegedly, Diddy gave the leader of the Southside Compton Crips, Keefe D, $1 million to kill Tupac and Suge Knight. And 50 Cent has a history of dragging Diddy's name through the mud, but his latest attack is the most explosive yet. 50 Cent just called
Tupac and others attack an LA gang member in a hotel lobby after a Mike Tyson fight in Las Vegas, believed to be in response to an earlier assault against someone affiliated, according to some police reports, lead to Tupac being shot less than 3 hours later.
Is it Orlando? Yes. Let me just ask you point blank. Did you kill Tupac Shakur?
I didn't kill Tupac. I don't know why, you know what I'm saying? They would even say something like that. I didn't do it, and I feel sorry for him, you know what I'm saying, his fans and his, and his family, friends.
She looked at me like, "Do you think you can commit to me?" And I just looked at her and said, "Sure, you'll probably need a hip replacement at some stage. But yes, I can."
Flexible financing for vet care with Care Credit.
After Tupac's murder, Keefe D and his crew left the white Cadillac together with the pistol, which was placed on one of the tires. When they returned to the hotel, they drank and smoked weed as if nothing had happened.
Yeah, okay, they're moving some suspects. We don't know what's going on. Hopefully, Tupac Shakur is not there. Where is Tupac? We don't know. That's supposed to be the...
Next day, after they had spent a fun night, they picked up the Cadillac, but the pistol was already gone. As Keefe D says, MTV started airing mass news headlines with the title "Keefe D's Nephew All of this news came to light when Suge Knight mentioned Keefe D and Orlando Anderson in an article about Pac's murder. Keefe stopped checking the news and called Suge Knight a snitch. After Tupac's murder, shootings broke out in Compton after the Southside Crips were suspected of being involved in the rapper's murder.
I think in the next 10 days, we had 3 people murdered and I want to say 11 shootings.
Keefe claims that Suge Knight himself was involved in these shootings as he wanted to find Orlando. Keefe knew where the boss of Death Row was at, and he wanted to pay him a visit. He headed there with his men. One of them was dressed in a UPS uniform. They went up to Suge's studio, but he did not open the door. If he would have opened the door, it would have very likely been killed.
I ain't gonna go into the detail. Like you try to get me waxed.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The conflict with Death Row didn't die down. One day, policeman Reggie Wright Sr., who happens to be the father of Death Row's bodyguard, Reggie Wright Jr., paid Keefe D a visit. He was worrying about his son and told Keefe, "If you kill my son, you asshole, you will pay for it." After that, Keefe understood that he needs to be ready for everything, since, after all, people in Suge's circle was clearly in an aggressive mood. 3 days after Pac's murder, Zip met up with Keefe at a cafe, and it was at that moment that Puffy called and asked, "Was it you?" According to Keefe's claims, he stayed quiet, but Greg Kading says that he confessed about the deed to Puffy.
And Keefe D, I'm sorry, Puffy asked him, "Man, was that us? Was it, what just happened out there?" Keefe D's like, "Yeah, that's us."
Keefe D had a close friend that goes by the name C. Ray, who's basically Keefe's right-hand man in his drug business. And it is this very person was initially supposed to be one of the accomplices in Tupac's murder. However, he chickened out, and Keefe changed to another car, to that very Cadillac. And generally speaking,
did y'all hear that shit? Is that us out there? What? What? He been said this. This is old. It's old shit, dog. He been said this shit.
a few weeks later, C. Ray's next-door neighbor got killed. The dude wasn't from Southside, but he grew up in their neighborhood. He worked as a Compton Unified School police officer and also volunteered with the Compton Police. The guy was on his way to work to drop his daughter off at school. He put his daughter in the car, then he walked around to get in the vehicle. A red car came around the corner. They shot him 35 times with an AK-47. That hit was meant for C. Ray. They got the wrong person. After that failed hit, C. Ray decided to start working with the police and became a confidential informant. C. Ray had information stating that Suge was paying $100,000 for Keefe and Orlando's heads, which he informed the drug lord about. Keefe said, "Let him know that I would kill that bastard for free." However, Keefe was nevertheless interested about where C. Ray got that information from. He suspected that C. Ray had slipped and got involved in some sneaky stuff. Then the raid on Keefe D's home took place, but he'd managed to escape prior to the raid. The search took place without him being there. Then, many were subject to searches, including Death Row. It would seem like there should have been shootouts between Keefe's crew and Death Row, but no. They even had a business deal between them. The whole thing is because then Suge Knight was faced with the threat of imprisonment after violating his parole after footage of him kicking Orlando like a football surfaced online. Suge had to turn to Keefe D's nephew for help. Orlando, who was with his lawyer at the time, called Keefe and told him to come and bring with him 2 guns. As Keefe recalls, it was a very uncomfortable situation, as it seems that, not long ago, they nearly killed one another. And not long after, they were sitting together in a small room discussing a deal. And what was the deal? Orlando would state in court that Suge didn't kick him. This testimony would cost Suge $60,000. Keefe D, Orlando, and their sidekick met up with Puffy in LA. At that time, they were armed, since war was raging in their neighborhood. Anderson received gunshot wounds from an AK-47 in both of his knees. For that reason, they were always on the lookout. In addition to that, Puffy hadn't paid anything for Pac's murder, even though half a year had passed already. According to Keefe's words, Puffy was highly agitated throughout the meeting and was finding it hard to speak normal. He invited them to a party which was taking place the next day at the Peterson Automotive Museum after the basketball game. The next day, they met again. There, Puffy told them that there were many feds around and that it was best for them not to meet up. Keefe asked whether they needed his protection today because there were also Bloods at the party. Puffy refused, believing that the feds would have their backs. But unfortunately, that did not help protect Biggie at all.
Using the toolkit inside of this document, I've been able to get Fortune 500.
Wow. Crazy, 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 crazy.
100 companies and government clients to pay me tons.
After Biggie's murder, many started suspecting Keefe D because they believed that he killed him because he wasn't paid for Pac's murder. While it is true that he was not paid, Keefe actually hung out with Biggie a few times, and Biggie and his circle were on good terms. Because of that, Keefe was subject to another raid, and they found an Impala car. Biggie Smalls was shot at from this very car model. However, at that time, every other celebrity had such a car in their garage, so the police couldn't find evidence that it was the same Impala. What's more is that it was of a different color. However, they were still able to throw Keefe in jail after listening in on his phone calls where he discussed selling cocaine, and he was caught red-handed. At that time, Keefe was on the run, but the police already knew everything from C-Ray. They knew that Keefe was acquainted with Puffy and Zip, and so on. Keefe was devastated that he was turned in by a close friend. He was sentenced to 6 years behind bars, and during the time of his sentencing, Baby Lane, aka Orlando Anderson, died in a shootout. He was with his friend Michael Duro next to a car wash, where they met two guys who owed them money. In the end, Orlando pulled out his gun and fired at one of them. Orlando was fired at in return, and then Michael shot at the guy who shot at Orlando. And in this shootout, 3 people had died. Orlando died on the spot. Michael lived, but he was arrested and received a life imprisonment. During that time, Lane founded his own label company under the name Success Records. And you can even find a cover for his album online.
Sweat I shouldn't do it, but see my seeds need some new fix. I take the consequence if I'm caught up with the substance.
Let's talk a little bit about Big Dre, who happens to be one of the main suspects of those who shot at Tupac. After all, he was sitting with Orlando in the back seat where the fatal wounds were shot from. He founded his own label company and even released an album which includes famous rappers. The most interesting part is that the name Snoop Dogg appears on the record. That's quite the news, guys, and it seriously took me by surprise. Who would have thought that one of Tupac's killers features in his album none other than Snoop, who was Pac's friend? And the description of the album says the following: this album is dedicated to all the fallen soldiers. And in this list, we can find the name Baby Lane, aka Orlando Anderson. So it happens that Snoop took part in an album that was dedicated to Orlando Anderson. What a discovery.
Big bosses, 100,000 we tossing up. Cute faces, big butts, chunk them up.
All right, this isn't about Snoop, and we'll go.
Hey. Wow. Let me start thinking. It's an interview where Snoop say, me and Tupac wasn't cool 2 days before he died.
Go back to Big Dre, who truly was big. Due to his extremely large weight,
the video coming up too,
he faced a lot of issues with his health at the beginning of the 2000s, and in 2004, he passed away from health-related issues. In 2007, Keefe D met up with Puff Daddy's former stylist. The stylist informed him that Puff had paid Zip money for the murder of Pac, but Keefe didn't receive a cent. With that money, Zip supposedly opened up a nightclub in New York. Zip has been deceased since 2012 when he supposedly died of cancer. Keefe D was yet again under the watchful eyes of cops after Biggie Smalls' mother filed a lawsuit against the city of Los Angeles. At one of the preliminary hearings, the judge stated that if the city was to lose the lawsuit, then the payment for losses and damages could amount up to $400 million, which is apparently the estimated amount that the court found suitable for the damages. For that reason, they were obligated to solve the case. In the end, Greg Kading took over the investigation. At the beginning, David Mack and Amir Muhammad were the suspects in Biggie's murder. However, after a long investigation, it became apparent that they were not involved in the murder. A little later, They went after Keefe D, who refused to give them any information. That time, the feds were investigating Keefe D and other members who were involved in drug dealing throughout the entire country. So they were not only able to sentence him for life behind bars, but they were also able to involve his family members. For that reason, Keefe decided to recount everything he knows, including what happened on the 7th of September, 1996.
I seen a bullet going Suge head. I thought he was dead.
So Tupac's trying to jump in the back seat. And what Suge doing? Just ducking?
After that, in 2015, Terrence Brown, who was the driver of the Cadillac, was found dead in Compton at Glow Gang Worldwide. Him and the store owner were killed. DJ Vlad asked why Bubble Up, aka Terrence Brown, was in question after Keefe D's confession, to which Greg responded by saying he tried, but nothing worked out, and the Las Vegas Police Department was not interested in it. And that same year of 2015 was the release of the movie Murder Rap, inside the Biggie and Tupac murders. The story was constructed based on Kading's investigation, in which he recounts all the details of the murders of the legendary rappers and who is responsible for them. Keefe D then released his own book, where he talks about his life and about the music industry, how he got to know Diddy, and so on. And he began giving interviews to various YouTube channels in which he mentioned that he regrets getting involved with the boss of Bad Boy Records. He also regrets getting involved in drugs and taking part in Tupac's murder, even though he thinks that Pac got what he deserved, because no one can lay a finger on his family.
I told you I beat 3 of the baddest entities in the world. United States government, fucking cancer, and the streets.
But, as we all know, not long ago, revenge took place. And on the 29th of September, 2023, Keefe D was arrested.
And my goal here today is to walk you through our investigation and what led us to the indictment of Dwayne Davis, also known as Keefe D, for the murder of Tupac Shakur.
For those who want to get to know the autobiography of Keefe D, I recommend you watch his criminal history. Hit the like button as it helps us promote the video. Subscribe to the channel. See you soon.
Biggie and Tupac's death.
Got to retaliate so they don't look like, a weak gang.
And when he claimed that Baby Lane was the one who did the deed, he also got involved in a fistfight with Pac at a Las Vegas casino hours before the shooting took place. Another bombshell was dropped that allegedly Faith Evans, who was married to Biggie Smalls at the time, was said to have knowledge of a plot involving Diddy to harm Tupac Shakur.
The saddest mystery in rap history has been solved. Oddly enough, it was solved by the same man who gave us the answer to who killed Tupac, Detective Greg Kading. Biggie was murdered in March of '97, just 6 months after Tupac. We've heard ridiculous conspiracies, but Greg Kading has our answer. Both murders appear to be at the center of a beef between Bad Boy and Death Row. Now, Biggie's murder is widely considered to have been in retaliation to Pac's.
Biggie was killed by an associate of Suge Knight's. He hired a guy named Poochie to track down Biggie at the Peterson Auto Museum in March of 1997 and wait for him outside.
According to Greg, Poochie was a well-known gang member from Compton who was reportedly paid $13,000 by Suge to kill Biggie. However, Poochie was never charged with the murder. In '02, Poochie was shot 20 times in the back. Now we know this because one of Suge's baby mamas went to the authorities with all the information.
She identified Poochie as the person that had been solicited to do the murder, provided other details that were only known to law enforcement, and said that Suge Knight had.
Well, what year was he killed? Suge Knight probably had him whacked.
Solicited it from jail.
Throw me a follow if you didn't know this. If you did, I'll settle for a like.
Theory number 1, and probably the most popular, is that the notorious B.I.G. or Biggie killed Tupac. This is mainly surrounding the East Coast versus West Coast hip-hop rivalry, and the fact that Tupac had been shot 5 times while visiting Quad Studios in New York City. And Tupac believed that Biggie and Puff Daddy Combs were behind that shooting. It is alleged that Biggie had paid Crips members a large amount of money and given them guns to kill Tupac. However, Biggie denied any involvement in Tupac's murder. But it didn't really matter because Tupac's people were convinced it was Biggie, which ultimately led to his murder.
Give your projects a friendly jolt in Slack. Type it out. Talk it out. Knock it out.
Hey, Keefe, Metro Police, come over here.
It was an arrest nearly 3 decades in the making.
New developments in the unsolved murder of Tupac
that shook the world of hip hop and beyond.
Police arresting Dwayne Davis, known as Keefe D.
Authorities calling him the only living suspect for a murder Americans have been obsessed with for years.
So what they got you for, man?
Biggest case in Las Vegas history.
According to investigators, Keefe D's quiet life on this unassuming Nevada street masked the criminal past of a hardened gangster responsible for the murder of one of the most influential rappers of our time, Tupac Shakur.
What does it mean to this city to be able to finally bring forth an indictment?
Well, in one word, justice.
Are you plead guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Where's the gun? Where's the Cadillac? Where's there any evidence that put Keefe Davis here?
Tonight, an ABC News investigation pulling back the curtains, taking you inside the probe that investigators say solved one of the most infamous cold cases in modern history.
If all these people were living today, they'd all be arrested and charged with murder.
The dueling police departments that may have complicated the investigation.
I just don't believe a lot of the information that was being conducted there in LA was actually being shared with us.
There would be no indictment had we not did what we did then.
And the never before heard audio of Keefe D.
What happened when you pulled up alongside?
A mastermind plotting things out. That's not Keefe D.
You can't get away with murder when you come to Las Vegas.
Back in 1996, Tupac was at the prime of his career when the 25-year-old Death Row Records artist was shot near the Strip.
I like to think I'm a revolutionary to bring change.
He had changed the rap game with hits like California Love.
Say what you say, but give me that ball beat from Dre. Let me serenade the streets of LA.
And breaking through in films like Juice.
Check yourself, Q. You gotta snap some collars and let them know you there to take them out anytime you feel like it.
Becoming a bona fide mainstream celebrity.
This is a superstar about to take a megastar turn.
That level of star power snuffed out too soon.
It was definitely a big case to me as a kid growing up here.
Lieutenant Jason Johansson was handed the reins to the homicide division at the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department in 2021.
Why had the case gone cold?
We knew what occurred and who did it. What we didn't have was a way to prove it in a court of law.
ABC News has learned that police actually interviewed Keefe in 2009, 14 years before his arrest. We've obtained exclusive audio of what they're calling a confession, which took place in California, where Keefe lived at the time.
How do you feel about Tupac being dead now?
I wish it never happened, man. Right. Swear my life been up ever since.
Keefe D had long been on law enforcement's radar.
So we're in Compton, California. It's the hometown of Keefe D. And it's not that big. It's about 10 square miles. But the gang ties here run deep, depending on where in the city you actually come from.
In the 70s, 80s, and 90s, the city of Compton had become almost synonymous with the street gangs California is infamous for.
You mainly had the Bloods, and then you had Crips.
It was then that a young man by the name of Dwayne Keefe D. Davis was making a name for himself as a major player with the Crips.
Dwayne Davis, by all accounts, was a well-established shot caller within the Southside Compton Crips. He had worked his way up through the gang, through narcotics trafficking and various other criminal activities.
Keefe D grew up with notorious figures in hip-hop, like Marion Suge Knight, the Death Row Records co-founder, who was with Tupac when he was shot.
And then what'd you see?
Blood.
Do you see people with the guns?
Listen carefully. Blood.
But in the 90s, Keefe and Suge found themselves on opposite sides of the raging battle between West Coast rappers and their adversaries from the East Coast. On one side, Suge's Death Row Records, which police say had connections with the Bloods. On the other, Bad Boy Records, which authorities say often hired Keefe D's Crips as security. It was run by CEO Sean Combs, who's used nicknames Puff Daddy and Diddy, and was home to artists like Notorious B.I.G. of Big Papa fame.
Throw your hands in the air if you're a true player.
Dwayne Davis was the one who was organizing with Bad Boy Records to offer them protection.
ABC News reached out to Diddy and did not hear back.
You got a gun? You got a gun up
Most
in
people
your
have
way,
no clue that in 2023, the best way to make money on Amazon is not with physical products.
Baby.
When Keefe sits down with Vegas police in 2009, he tells his version of events from the night Tupac was fatally shot. It was September 7, 1996. It seems as though the entire world had come to Vegas to watch the much-awaited boxing match at the MGM Grand between Mike Tyson and Bruce Seldon. Tupac and Suge were in town. So were Keefe and his crew, who he says drove to town in that infamous white Cadillac.
Where do you stay? Stay with my girl.
After the boxing match, Tupac, Suge, and their crew walked through the MGM Grand Hotel lobby. There, they encounter Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, Keefe's nephew. Tupac and his entourage are caught.
Yo. I was going to say, what's the coincidence of them running into... It makes sense though. What's the coincidence of them running into them at at MGM, right? What's the coincidence of Tupac running into them? But when you think back, that dude said, I think it's gonna come up. Somebody came to get Tupac and they said, the niggas that tried to take my chain, my death row chain is in here. Then what? It go back to Puff Daddy was trying to pay somebody $7,500 to take one of the death row chains. Left the dots.
Caught on hotel surveillance video attacking Orlando after Tupac allegedly learns that Orlando might have tried to steal a prized death row pendant months earlier.
When he went over there and punched Orlando Anderson, Tupac Shakur basically forced himself into gang politics.
What did Baby Lane tell you? That they jumped on him. Who? The devil shooting him. They beat his arm in the socket.
According to prosecutors, that incident is what gave Keefe and his soldiers what he called the ultimate green light. After that fight, Tupac and his entourage head to Club 662, a nightclub Suge ran by the Strip.
And we had the light on Las Vegas and Flamingo, and Tupac hanging out the window. Hey. And all the girls were going crazy on that corner.
What happened when you pulled up alongside?
Shooting.
Who got to shoot?
I know. So give me a right shot.
Okay. So how many times did Orlando fire? Approximately.
Maybe about 5 or 6. I seen the bullet like going Suge head. I seen the boy jumping up and down, trying to get in the back seat.
The boy being
Tupac.
Keefe also telling authorities he was the one who provided the murder weapon.
You give the gun to somebody?
Yeah, I gave it to the cat. I don't know who I specifically handed it to.
6 days after he was shot, Tupac Amaru Shakur succumbed to his wounds. He was only 25. These are the players from the night of the 7th.
Yeah, these are the players. This is Orlando Anderson, and he's in the right rear seat. And then Keefe D in the right front passenger seat.
And without question in your mind, based on your investigation, Keefe D. Davis is the mastermind.
None of them would have made a decision to do something with Keefe D in the car unless Keefe D was part of that decision making.
And what's the status of all these other gentlemen?
They are all deceased. Davis is the only member still living.
Orlando Anderson had always denied his involvement in Tupac's murder. He died in an unrelated gang shootout in 1998. But Keefe D's words alone.
Always denied it, but he always, his face, man, his eyes, his face tell it all.
Allegedly telling the police he provided the murder weapon
Look at his interviews. Look at his interviews. I got something coming up.
to another. Weren't enough to make an arrest at that point.
We had no corroboration, no other cooperation of any other individuals. Dwayne Davis walks in and says, I lied. We have nothing to backstop that. The key on this case was being able to backstop it.
Coming up, the rival police department also talking to Keefe D.
The combination of arrogance and ignorance would prove to be his undoing.
Plus the man who all sides say would make a difference in the case. What do you think about Suge Knight?
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live...
Suge Knight.
And this is why P. Diddy is allegedly somehow involved in this storyline.
I believe he's involved in this, and not in a good way.
No. A while back, Eminem, when he dissed MGK, he threw a little line out there at the end. The last 1 minute, I would say, he said, P. Diddy got Pac killed. Whatever the rhyme was, but the words P. Diddy got Pac killed.
Mm-hmm.
The era of DevOps has driven tremendous innovation.
I ain't never in my life told. You know, I'm the mother when people ask me if I know who killed Tupac, and not saying Tupac dead or alive, but I'm saying if they ask me if I know who killed Tupac, I'm the said, hey, absolutely not. Yeah. You know what I mean? No. I don't get down like that. One thing people gotta realize, it's mother born and raised out here. Yeah. You both respect the mother who live out here. Yeah. Because right now we got a lot of out of towners living out here, and they ain't said nothing about it. Yeah, exactly. You'll have a 90 mother walk down the street and said Suge Knight killed Tupac. But everybody know off the top, I ain't the nigga killed Tupac, I'm the nigga protected Tupac. Yeah. But at the same time, bitch ass puppy can give him a mother car, and every rat in the world said he didn't want to kill Tupac. Yeah. Or had him shot. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Subscribe to the PDH Network.
Let's delve into the intricate relationship between two iconic figures in the hip-hop industry, Tupac Shakur and Sean Puff Daddy Combs, also known as P. Diddy. It all began with a seemingly strong friendship between Tupac and Biggie Smalls, Christopher Wallace, who was also known as the Notorious B.I.G. These two hip-hop legends shared a bond that extended beyond music. Tupac, in fact, had so much faith in Biggie's talents that he offered to manage his career. He believed that Biggie had the potential to shine in the music and film industries.
27 years. 27 years. For 27 years, the family of Tupac Shakur has been waiting for justice. We are here today to announce the arrest of 60-year-old Dwayne Keefe Davis, aka Keefe D, for the murder of Tupac Shakur.
On September 29th, 2023, Dwayne Keefe Davis, alias Keefe D, was taken into custody by Las Vegas Metropolitan Police in connection with the murder of arguably the most influential rapper in hip-hop's history. For most, Tupac's murder is shrouded in mystery. However, for those who closely follow news in the hip-hop world, Keefe D's involvement in the rapper's death was an open secret, with the motive behind the hit being caught on camera. So, who is Keefe D? What was his role in Tupac's death? And why did it take 27 years for the former gangster to finally end up in handcuffs? Tupac's killer arrested.
I wish that my son was here and that he could go and lie down in my bed and come out of my room and say, Mom, what'd you cook? I miss his being. He was my son, and I miss him as my baby, my boy, who I loved, respected.
This was Afeni Shakur, Tupac's mom, almost brought to tears by the death of her son. She would have loved to get closure regarding her son's tragic death. However, Mrs. Afeni Shakur passed away on May 2nd, 2016, after going into cardiac arrest at her home at the age of 69. And as we will see, only 2 years after her death, the case regarding her son's death would be opened again, leading to an arrest. While Tupac's mom waited for the cops to get justice for her slain son for 20 years, the rapper's fans had to wait for 27 years. Well, the wait is finally over. After 27 excruciating years, one of the men believed to have had a hand in the murder of Tupac was arrested.
Las Vegas Metro Police took Dwayne Keefe D. Davis into custody Friday. He's being held on charges related to the 1996 murder of rapper Tupac Shakur.
Earlier in July, cops raided Keefe D's home in Henderson, Nevada. An affidavit filed to obtain the warrant states that police were looking for notes, writings, ledgers, and other handwritten or typed documents concerning television shows, documentaries, YouTube episodes, book manuscripts, and movies concerning the murder of Tupac Shakur. Apart from the electronics, investigators left the former gangster's home with USB and hard drives, photographs, a copy of Vibe magazine featuring Tupac, and a copy of the Compton Street Legends book, co-authored by Keefe D and Yusuf Jah. According to the warrant, investigators were generally searching for items that would provide evidence of motive or even reveal the identity of Tupac's killer. So what?
It is
that easy to make good beats with this kid.
What exactly gave Keefe D away? How was he able to evade the cops for 27 years? And will he finally be put behind bars for Tupac's murder? As it turns out, somewhere along the way, Keefe D felt emboldened to shout from the rooftops what happened the night Tupac died. It all started in 2008 when Keefe D was arrested in a PCP ring case. According to reports, the feds had been gathering evidence on the drug ring that Keefe D ran and had enough intel to put him away for 25 years. As cops normally do, they enticed Keefe D to tell them what happened the night Tupac was shot dead.
And we put an ironclad case against him, approach him, and say, here's the deal, Keefe D. We have questions about these murders. If you don't cooperate, you're going to prison for the rest of your life, and so are several members of your family who are caught up in your drug organization.
Well, everyone who was involved had long died, including the shooter. And with the extra motivation on the table, you best believe Keefe D sang like a bird for 3 straight hours.
He confesses to his involvement in the murder of Tupac Shakur in Las Vegas in 1996. He tells us that his nephew, Orlando Anderson, was in the same car with him, which was the white Cadillac.
After truth-telling on his nephew, the drug case against Keefe D was dropped, and he walked away a free man. For many people, this would have been a second chance at life, a chance to start over again. However, a few years later, in 2011, ex-cop Greg Kading published the book Murder Rap, which highlighted Keefe D's confession in detail. Greg Kading is an author and former Los Angeles Police Department detective. He is best known for working on a multi-law enforcement task force that investigated the murders of Tupac and Biggie Smalls. Apart from that, he was instrumental in getting Keefe D to spill the beans on Tupac's murder. Greg Kading's book sent shockwaves across the hip-hop world as it implicated some of the industry's biggest names. The most notable name in the book, as we will see later, was none other Sean Combs, alias P. Diddy. With the book and subsequently Keefe D's story gripping audiences across the nation and the world, the ex-gangster became envious. In his mind, this was his story. He deserved a piece of the pie for having let the world know what happened to their beloved artist. To add salt to injury, in 2015, 4 years after the book was published, it spun off a documentary. He must have felt jealous that people were making money from what he considered his story. While he got his name soiled and his reputation destroyed for breaking the street code and cooperating with the feds, the cops were making bank. According to Greg Kading, Keefe D resented the fact that someone else other than him was telling the world the story.
But if you understand the ego of Keefe D, he resented that somebody else was telling the story other than him.
Well, Keefe D decided to do the unthinkable. He decided to publicly start truth-telling, and this was the beginning of the end for him. He appeared on multiple podcasts where he openly gave the horrific details that led to the death of Tupac. According to Greg Kading, his desire to own the story and tell it himself led him to publicly speak about what happened in 1996.
But if you understand the ego of Keefe D, he resented that somebody else was telling the story other than him. And so that whole thing prompted him to then go out publicly boast about his involvement.
Keefe D appeared on any podcast or show that would have him, and he would repeat his whole routine of exposing the tragic events that led to Tupac's death. So why would he do this without a care in the world? What gave Keefe D the false sense of bravado? Well, as it turns out, that apart from having an ego, there were other factors that led him to snitch on himself. Popular YouTuber DJ Vlad revealed in a recent interview that one of the reasons Keefe D agreed to appear on Vlad TV, a channel with over 5 million subscribers, and share the story, was that he thought that he had immunity from prosecution from the proffer agreement that he made with feds in 2008.
Well, I think that he believed that he had a level of immunity when he did the proffer agreement.
It is important to note that a proffer agreement is an agreement between the feds and a defendant that ensures government attorneys will not use any statements the defendant makes during an off-the-record interview against them in later proceedings. Keefe D should have spoken to his attorney before heading to interviews thinking that he had immunity, while Keefe D's words to the feds in 2008 can't be used against him. What he did not know was that anything he said outside the interview room was fair game and would be used to prosecute him. In an interview, Greg Kading spoke about the proffer agreement between Keefe D and the feds, saying, "The proffer agreement simply said that when you sit down and talk to us, whatever you say that is self-incriminating, we won't use against you. But when he leaves that room, that agreement doesn't apply to everything else in his life, as he erroneously believed. So he began to go out and boast about his involvement in the murder. None of that's protected under the agreement. He has essentially talked himself right into jail." Apart from that, DJ Vlad disclosed that another reason that gave Keefe D the false sense of confidence was that he had been diagnosed with cancer, and he knew that he did not have long to live.
I think at the time He was saying that he had cancer, so maybe he didn't think he had much time to live.
I think now you beat it.
So he was just kind of letting it loose at that point.
So confident was Keefe D that in 2019, he published his memoir titled Compton Street Legend, where he provided more details to claims he had previously told the feds. What the ex-gangster overlooked is that the feds are always watching podcasts, waiting for criminals such as himself to incriminate themselves.
But it wasn't until 2018 that this case was reinvigorated as additional information came to light related to this homicide. Specifically, Dwayne Davis's own admissions to his involvement in this homicide investigation that he provided to numerous different media outlets.
Another question you may be asking is whether or not Keefe D will actually end up in jail. Remember, in his confession to the feds in 2008, as well as his admissions and interviews all point to his nephew as the gunman. Well, aiding and abetting in Nevada is when you act as an accomplice in a crime, and knowingly aiding and abetting makes you liable for the crimes you help commit, and you face the same penalties that the principals do. In this case, the shooter could have been charged with murder. Upon Keefe D's arrest, he was charged with one count of murder with a deadly weapon and with the intent to promote, further, or assist a criminal gang. Mind you, at the time of Tupac's death, Keefe D was the leader of the Southside Compton Crips gang. The ex-gangster knew that his goose was cooked and that it was only a matter of time before he was arrested. This is evident from his conversation with a cop during his arrest. In his words, he's involved in the biggest case in Las Vegas history and wants the exact date of Tupac's murder.
So what they got you for, man? Pretty nuts. Pretty nuts, dog. He played himself. Played the shit out of himself, dog.
Oh yeah? Like recent?
Everyone agrees that it's time that Keefe D answers for his sins. In fact, many would want to see him live out the rest of his days locked up. In his book, he shows no remorse for his actions, as he writes. I stand firm on the point that Tupac, Suge Knight, and the rest of those niggas didn't have any business putting their hands on my beloved nephew, Baby Lane. Period. Them jumping on my nephew gave us the ultimate green light to do something to their ass. Tupac chose the wrong game to play and the wrong niggas to play with. Suge and them should have done a better job of protecting that dude because they knew who the fuck we were and the kind of shit we were capable of. Tupac may not have known, but Suge and his peeps definitely knew. Tupac was a guppy that got swallowed up by some ferocious sharks. He shouldn't have ever got involved in that bullshit of trying to be a thug. As he appears before court, the hip-hop world can only hope that justice is served once and for all. Deadly feud. With the whole world now focused on Keefe D, one may ask, who exactly is this man? Since he is not in the music business, he is mostly unknown to many hip-hop enthusiasts, especially the younger generation. Keefe D was born on June 14, 1963, and was an intriguing figure in the crime world with ties to the California-based gang, the Southside Compton Crips. His life story is a mosaic of experiences that span gang affiliations, personal losses, and a significant
I chose St. George's University School of Medicine because at the time that I wanted to go into medicine, they were the
time spent behind bars. Coming from a family of 6 brothers and 6 sisters, Keefe D's upbringing was shaped by a backdrop of gang culture. His mother died from colon cancer in 1980 when he was only 15. In his 2018 memoir, Keefe D revealed that in 2014, he got the same cancer that killed his mother, which may have emboldened him to come clean on his role in Tupac's death. Fortunately, or unfortunately, he is now in remission, which means that if found guilty, he may live out the rest of his life in jail. Apart from losing his mom to cancer, Keefe D also lost 2 of his brothers, one from cancer and the other was shot in the streets of Compton. The tragic loss of one of his older brothers to a fatal shooting incident cast a shadow on his life journey. His life took a tumultuous turn as he found himself entangled in the world of crime. This path led him to spend over a decade within the walls of both state and federal prisons. His involvement in a range of criminal activities, notably the act of emptying 2 clips into the residence of a rival gang member, reflects the intense conflicts and rivalries that characterized his surroundings. His life in crime started way back in 1971 when he started getting involved with the Crips. As it turns out, it was due to peer pressure, as that was what all the boys in the neighborhood were doing. Later, he got a job working in Compton College. However, the money was not coming as fast as he had hoped, and that's when he turned to selling drugs, which turned out to be what he had expected money-wise. Eventually, the law would catch up to him, and he went to prison for dealing from 1985 to 1989. However, according to him, the time in prison didn't rehabilitate him, but instead made him a hardened gangster. After getting out of jail, Keefe D was soon involved in the hip-hop industry with connections to iconic rapper rapper Eazy-E, and former drug kingpin Harry O, showing how powerful he became in the rap industry. Harry O is among the co-founders of Death Row Records, the record label that launched the careers of rap legends Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, and Tupac Shakur. He had been behind bars since 1988 for attempted murder and kidnapping until former President Donald Trump came to his rescue and cut his sentence 7 years short in 2021. Harry O was not the only Death Row co-founder that Keefe D had ties to. As he has revealed multiple times, Keefe D and the infamous Suge Knight grew up together and, as we will see, would end up resenting each other. According to Keefe D, he first met Death Row Records co-founder when he was 9 years old. As it turns out, their relationship dates back to their younger years when they played Pop Warner football together. Keefe D's role as a running back complemented Suge Knight's position as center, providing a glimpse into their earlier friendship and shared experiences. However, this would turn sour when Keefe D met Sean Love Combs, alias P. Diddy, and formerly known as Puff Daddy. The origins of their relationship trace back to a moment when Keefe D lent a lowrider to Usher for one of his music videos. The lowrider, loaned by Keefe D and his associates, bore the brunt of the Usher's dance performance. Luckily, Diddy took responsibility and personally funded the repair of the vehicle and later sparked off a friendship with Keefe D. At the time, Diddy had founded Bad Boy Records, which was in competition with Death Row Records. However, before drama between the two labels started, P. Diddy and Suge Knight were actually friends. In an interview, Diddy revealed that the Death Row boss would even pick him up from the airport.
Because homeboy, me and him were friends. Wow.
In a sense,
Yeah. He would pick me up from the airport.
Diddy would soon learn that the two music executives were not friends in 1995 during the Second Source Awards when Suge dissed him. To give some context regarding the infamous night, it is important to remember that this was a pretty huge deal in the hip-hop industry, as Source was among the most, if not the most famous, hip-hop magazine at the time. Therefore, the who's who in rap attended. From Nas to Wu-Tang, the hip-hop community had gathered for the award show at Madison Square Garden's Paramount Theater. However, there was one major absentee, Tupac. At the time, he was serving time for a sexual abuse case against him. On November 30th, 1994, while in New York recording music, Tupac was robbed and shot. He alleged that he had been set up by people connected to Diddy's label, which would lead to the feud between Bad Boy and Death Row. The beef escalated the night of the awards when the Death Row co-founder took to stage to accept an award and gave a speech that would ultimately lead to some of the worst events in hip-hop history.
Any artist out there want to be an artist and want to stay a star, don't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the videos, all on the record, dancing. Come to Death Row.
That was a direct shot at P. Diddy, who had a habit of appearing in his artist videos and music. Tensions were high that night. However, P. Diddy took the stage, and instead of clapping back at Death Row, he extended an olive branch.
I'm the executive producer that a comment was made about a little bit earlier. But check this out. Contrary to what other people may feel, I would like to say that I'm very proud of Dr. Dre, of Death Row, and Suge Knight for their accomplishment.
It seems Diddy wanted peace, or maybe that is what he wanted them to think. Events that took place over the next 2 years saw the deaths of hip-hop's finest rappers, Tupac and Biggie, as Diddy and Keefe D found themselves at the center of it all. Things did not get any better after Tupac came back from jail and released arguably the most brutal diss track in hip-hop, Hit 'Em Up. Apart from that, on September 24th, 1995, the night Suge slapped Diddy at a party in Atlanta at the Platinum House nightclub. Although Diddy wanted to get back at Death Row, he was afraid of Suge Knight. So he turned to the one man who he knew was not afraid of his nemesis, the leader of the Southside Compton Crips. With Keefe D's backing, Diddy started toying with the idea of killing the Death Row CEO. By Keefe D's account, Zip, Combs, and himself discussed the hit on Shakur once at a concert in Anaheim and a couple of times at Greenblatt's Deli on the Sunset Strip. He took me downstairs and he's like, man, I want to get rid of them dudes, man. I was like, we'll wipe their ass out quick, man. It's nothing. Keefe D revealed to the feds. At first, Diddy only wanted Suge dead. However, as Keefe D revealed to the feds, after Tupac made the brutal diss track aimed at Bad Boy Records, he was added to the kill list. When Combs asked about Shakur and Knight, would he always say both of them? A detective can be heard asking Keefe D during the interrogation. He added the boy Shakur on after he made a record, the ex-gangster replied. Before that, it was just Suge Knight, and then after Hit 'Em Up came out, the detective asked, and Keefe D replied saying, yeah, that pissed Combs off. The first physical confrontation between the two camps came in March 1996, when a scuffle broke out at the Soul Train Music Awards in Los Angeles after Notorious Bodyguard brandished a weapon in front of an armed member of Shakur's entourage backstage at the Shrine Auditorium. Although no one was harmed, a few months later, the first casualty of the beef would be recorded. In August that same year, a handful of Southside Crips beat and robbed one of Shakur's Mob Piru Blood's bodyguards at a mall in Lakewood. The assailant snatched a diamond-studded Death Row medallion, from the victim's neck. The next confrontation between the two groups would prove deadly and would involve two childhood friends, Keefe D and Suge Knight. The Southside Crips had a regular tradition of going to Las Vegas to watch Mike Tyson fight. On September 7th, 1996, they found their way to Nevada to watch Mike Tyson fight Bruce Seldon. After the fight, Keefe D and the Crips planned to meet in the cafe at the MGM Grand, but Orlando Anderson, alias Baby Lane, his nephew, didn't show up. Then some 118 East Coast Crips came and told us that they saw some death row jump on my nephew down by the casino, he told cops. Surveillance footage shows death row affiliates surrounding and beating up Baby Lane. After hearing that his nephew had been jumped, Keefe D revealed that the beef had become personal and decided to retaliate immediately. After Tupac, Suge, and them death row jumped on my nephew Baby Lane, the shit became ominously personal, Keefe D wrote in his book. Keefe D, together with 3 others, decided to go to Club 662 for a death row after party where Tupac was supposed to perform. The 3 others included Terrence Brown, alias T Brown, DeAndre Smith, alias Dre, and Baby Lane. T Brown was the driver that night while Keefe D sat next to him. Behind his uncle was Baby Lane. Behind the driver sat Dre. He wrote that he first planned to confront Knight, whom he had long known. But after Tupac and Knight didn't show up for an hour and a half, Keefe D called his crew off. Lucky for them, they never showed up because it would have been like Al Capone's Valentine's Day massacre if they had, he wrote. On their way home, the group stopped to buy alcohol. Keefe D revealed that he put the Glock that he intended to use in the back of his car. They hopped back in the car and headed to their house. On the way, they saw Tupac with half of his body hanging out of a BMW, waved to fans who were calling his name. They turned their Cadillac around and followed the BMW, stopping right next to them at a traffic light. The occupants in both cars looked at each other for a split second. Tupac then started to reach for his gun, and according to Keefe D, that's when the fireworks started. The shooter, seated at the back of the Cadillac, rolled down the window and rapidly fired gunshots at Tupac's BMW. One of my guys from the back seat grabbed the Glock and started busting back, he wrote in his memoir. The rapper was hit 4 times, twice in the chest, once in the arm, once in the thigh. One of the bullets went into Shakur's right lung. Knight was hit in the head by fragmentation. They then drove off and even saw the 2 ambulances carrying Tupac and Knight. The group ditched their Cadillac and then popped bottles and partied like it was any other night. At the hospital, Shakur was heavily sedated, was placed on life support machines, and was ultimately put under a medically induced coma after repeatedly trying to get out of bed. While in the critical care unit on the afternoon of Friday, September 13th, 1996, Shakur died of respiratory failure that led to cardiac arrest after the removal of his right lung. Everyone who was at the crime scene refused to cooperate with the cops, meaning they had little to no lead. As it turns out, Death Row wanted to retaliate the old school way. The following year, Christopher George LaTorre Wallace, alias Biggie Smalls, was shot and killed outside the Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles after a Soul Train Music Awards party. It is believed that Suge Knight ordered the hit. Hip-hop world reacts. Keefe D's arrest has sparked conversations as celebrities continue to chime into the story. One of the most notable voices is that of the man who was with Tupac the day he was shot, Suge Knight. Given that he saw the occupants in the white Cadillac, yet he refused to cooperate with the cops, many people were skeptical and even thought that he may have had a hand in Tupac's death. This rumor started after news spread that Pac was about to leave Death Row Records. His album titled Don Columinati, The 7-Day Theory, was the last album he had to do for Death Row Records. After this, he allegedly planned to work on his new record company called Machiavelli Records. With Pac gone, Death Row Records wasn't going to make any money off of him. So if they killed him, everything related to him would get them a whole lot of cash, and they would now have
In this life we live as thugs, everybody fucking with us, so can't you see? It's hard to be a man, riding with my gun in hand. Long live Tupac, man.
of all of his unreleased songs that they would release under their label on soundtracks, compilation albums, and possibly even new albums. This rumor was further fueled when Gaddafi, who famously appeared on the diss track Hit 'Em Up, agreed to testify. The night Tupac was shot, Gaddafi was riding in the car behind Shakur's and witnessed the shooting. He initially refused to cooperate with police, but later said he could possibly identify the assailants. However, on November 10th, 1996, he was shot once in the head and died in Orange, New Jersey. Gaddafi's death seemed a little too convenient as people suspected foul play involving Death Row. To add salt to injury, another rumor started circulating claiming that Tupac was alive. Well, this rumor was started by none other than, you guessed it, Suge Knight. In 2014, while leaving a West Hollywood nightclub, a TMZ camera rolled up on the former Death Row Records kingpin and he spilled the beans. First, he clarified that he did not shoot the late rapper as many people suspected. Everybody knows off the top, I ain't the nigga killed Tupac. I'm the nigga protected Tupac, he said. He ended his verbal tirade by saying, Tupac's not dead. You know he's somewhere smoking a Cuban cigar. This was not the first first time the Death Row co-founder said something that raised eyebrows regarding Tupac's death. In a 2017 documentary, he said, "When I left that hospital, me and Pac was laughing and joking. So I don't see how somebody could turn from doing well to doing bad," which hinted at the rapper's condition being stable. The rumor that he had faked his death was supported by many theories. First, Tupac was a big fan of the great thinker Niccolo Machiavelli, who famously said, "To fool one's enemies, fake one's death." In the book, the Prince Machiavelli discusses how a ruler can protect himself from enemies who are too powerful to confront directly. He suggests that a ruler could pretend to be dead, allowing his enemies to lower their guard and then strike back when the time is right. Is this what Tupac did? Well, the hip-hop legend's aunt is political activist and former Black Liberation Army member Assata Shakur, who escaped prison and fled to Cuba after being convicted for the murder of a state trooper. She was granted political asylum in Cuba in 1984, where she has lived ever since. Well, rumor had it that after the shooting, Tupac, fearing his life under threats from rival gangs and growing tired of fame, faked his own death and went to live in Cuba. To top it all off, there's also the strange fact that the person who cremated Tupac's body retired afterward and hasn't been seen since. Well, with all this information, what was Suge Knight's reaction to Keefe D's arrest? He spoke to TMZ from a California prison, where he's serving a 28-year sentence for voluntary manslaughter. "I'm surprised, for one, because I never thought Keefe D would get arrested. Whatever the circumstances, if he had an involvement in anything, if he didn't have any involvement in anything, I wouldn't wish somebody going to prison on my worst enemy," he said. He was then asked whether he would testify against him. Keep in mind that Keefe D revealed in his memoir that when the white Cadillac pulled up next to the BMW at the traffic light, he and his childhood friend locked eyes just before the shots were fired. As many people expected,
It's the Big Pig song. There was a hood on phonics. Your kid will read a 30-day guarantee.
the Death Row Records co-founder revealed that he would be testifying against Keefe D. 1,000%, I wouldn't testify, none of that shit, he told TMZ. This is perfectly understandable as he was currently in jail. If the inmates got wind that he was cooperating with the cops as a witness, his stay in jail would be very unpleasant. He would be attacked or even worse, killed, since ratting people out is unacceptable behavior in jail. What is shocking about the Death Row co-founder's reaction to the arrest is that he still denied that Baby Lane pulled the trigger. "I never had nothing bad to say about Orlando because he wasn't the shooter," he said. Does he know something that we don't? Is he calling cap on Keefe D's version of events? Well, we may never know. On the other hand, Tupac's sister, Sakiwa Shakur, rejoiced at the news of the arrest after so many years. She took to Instagram with a brief message, adding that her family is seeking real justice on all fronts. This is no doubt a pivotal moment. The silence of the past 27 years surrounding this case has spoken loudly in our community. It's important to me that the world, the country, the justice system, and our people acknowledge the gravity of the passing of this man, my brother, my mother's son, my father's son. His life and death matters and should not go unsolved or unrecognized. So yes, today is a victory, but I will reserve judgment until all the facts and legal proceedings are complete. She then hinted at more arrests being made in the case as she wrote, "There have been multiple hands involved and there remains so much surrounding the life and death of my brother Tupac and our Shakur family overall. We are seeking real justice on all fronts." Also reacting to the development, Mopreme Shakur, the rapper's older brother, called the arrest bittersweet for a number of reasons. While speaking to TMZ, he said, "The time, of course, 27 years. It didn't have to be this way. It didn't have to happen at all. I hate to even have to live in the reality that my brother's not here. Justice is accountability. That's the sweet part and the bitter."
Yeah, when it stuff are Keefe D went to jail, I think his brother said Puff Daddy called him out of nowhere like, I ain't do it. I ain't do it.
Sweet. And I'm bracing because it ain't over. Jada Pinkett Smith, who has long publicly praised her childhood friendship and alleged romance with Tupac Shakur, also took to Instagram with a reaction. "Now I hope we can get some answers and have some closure. Rest in peace, Pac," she posted on her IG story. Apart from his family, close associates, and former lovers, fellow rappers weighed in on the situation. Rapper Ice-T could not bring himself to understand why it had taken so long to arrest Keefe D, yet he snitched on himself very many times. While on an interview, Ice-T said, "I think the cops knew exactly how this thing played out. I just don't really understand why it took law enforcement so long, because if I say that I'm in a car with somebody that does something, I'm part of the crime. If I go over to your house and ask you for a gun and you give it to me and I go do it, you aided and abetted the crime." He also could not understand why Keefe D was snitching on himself if he didn't want to get caught. So my point is that with all the interviews and all the books where dude just happened to say it 100 times on interviews he did, why would you say that if you didn't want to get caught? So, I got no love for the dude. It was a chance chain of events that should not have ever happened. It's all out of my realm of understanding, the rapper said. 50 Cent also chimed in with a dig aimed at P. Diddy through an Instagram post where he told Diddy to lawyer up. Damn, so Pac got lined by Brother Love. LOL, time to lawyer up. It might get sticky, 50 Cent posted. There have been numerous reports, including from Keefe D, claiming that Diddy offered $1 million for his two nemesis to get killed. However, Keefe D revealed that he never got his cut of the money. In fact, he also claims that Diddy ghosted him after that, seemingly trying to cut off all loose ends. It has been a long time coming, and it looks like
This shit ain't overnight, that's a whole lot of flips. This shit ain't overnight, took a whole lot of trips. This shit ain't overnight, gotta learn and get your grip. This shit ain't come overnight, it just look like this. This shit ain't overnight, been through so much shit in my life. The game colder than ice, that blade sharp cut you like a knife. Always had my own little thing, let a nigga bone feed me with a slice. We was grinding all night just to make them turnovers precise. I had to sacrifice, I had to cut some ties, minimize. I had to realize, I use my real eyes, see through the lies. Club going live, strange guys, say FBI. Notify the guys, I swear they had the nerve, think I was high. This shit ain't overnight, that's a whole lot of flips. This shit ain't overnight, took a whole lot of trips. This shit ain't overnight, gotta learn and get your grip. This shit ain't come overnight, it just look like this. Blood, sweat, and tears, I lost peers to face my fears. Learn to perfect my grip, living on the edge so many years. When you living life in a fast lane, gotta know when to shift the gears. Gotta decode everything I hear in my ears, so severe. This shit ain't overnight, that's a whole lot of flips. This shit ain't overnight, took a whole lot of trips. This shit ain't overnight, gotta learn and get your grip. This shit ain't come overnight, it just look like this.